Hello everyone, I'm Sharang Dev and welcome to Octopus ITES. In today's episode, we are going to create an Android application which is going to perform the addition of two numbers. Alright, so it's very basic one, it's very easy, and we are going to write some front end and back end code for the same. So let's get started. Okay, so let's create a new project. So go into file, highlight the new tab, and there it is, the new project. All right, so over here you can see you can give the application name. All right, we have already covered this in our previous episodes, so I'll just give the name of our application as perform addition. Okay, and I'm going to keep the package name as it is. I'm not going to change this package name. You can change it if you want it. Alright, this is the project location that you can see over here. So for your workstations it will be different. Okay, then click on next. Again, we are going to use this, we are going to create this application for our phones and tablets. Okay, so checked on that. Then I'm going to use the minimum API level as ice cream sandwich. I'm not going to change that. Okay, so we are going to create this application for the devices who has the API level 15 or more. All right, so let's click on next. Then again we are going to need the empty activity for this particular project, so let's select this empty activity. So over here you can see that this is the activity name, so let's click on finish. It will take some time to build your complete project. Okay, so you have to wait for a while. Over here you can see that Gradle is running and there are number of processes running at the back end for creating your complete project. Okay, it completely depends on your workstation's performance. All right, okay, so this is the project structure. This is the main activity.java file. This is the backend file. All right, so we are going to write the logic of adding the two numbers in this particular file, in this main activity.java. But for now we are going to create the user interface for our addition application. All right, so go into activity main.xml file. Okay, so this is the complete UI file, you can see it over here. Okay, so this file is basically resided in res folder. So go into res, there is a layout folder, and inside that this file is situated. Okay, before creating the user interface for this particular application, let's understand there are two modes. Okay, so this is the design mode and this is the text mode. Okay, so you can use either one. Both are dedicated to create the user interface which you wanted and as per your specifications. In design mode you can see that there is a list of components over here. So out of which I can choose any of the components and I can just drag and drop over this activity. All right, this is the activity that you are seeing right now. Okay, so our hello world program is already done, so I'm just going to delete this particular text view. Okay, so simply by pressing delete button, now you can see this is the list of components out of which you can use the specific components which are needed for your particular applications, right? So for performing the addition, what we basically need, we need two input fields, right? Two numbers. All right, so we are going to use some component which is going to accept my input, and I'm going to add those two numbers just by clicking on one button, and then I'm going to display that result into some label. So before we begin to design the complete user interface for our addition application, okay, so let's jump back to the text mode. Okay, and let's make some major changes in this code. Okay, there is one major change, that we are changing the constraint layout. And okay, so you can see it over here that I have just highlighted this much code. Okay, and I'm just going to delete this code and I'm going to use relative layout over here. Okay, So why we are using relative layout, I'll tell you that once we are going to do the coding in text mode. Okay, so just keep it as it is. Okay, we'll revert back to this later. Let's jump back to the design mode. Okay, so now you can select any of these components and you can just simply drag and drop the number of components onto this particular layout. Okay, so for our addition application, what we're gonna need, we are going to need the number edit text field. Okay, so I'm selecting this number edit text field for accepting the first number. Okay, so this is the edit text field which is going to accept only number input. So you can see there are different types of edit text fields, and we are going to use them one by one in our later on applications. Okay, so for now we are going to select the number edit text field. Okay, on the right side of the studio you can see that there are set of properties of this particular number edit text field. This is the main property, you can see it over here. This is the ID of each component, and you have to name those IDs as per your specifications, and you have to use those IDs in your backend code. Okay, so in your Java code, which is going to be written in this particular file. Okay, in this main activity.java. So we are going to refer all these components, all these UI components, and we are going to give the reference to those components in this particular Java file. Okay, so let's jump back to the main activity. I'm going to change this ID as num1. So I'm keeping this ID as num1 because I'm going to accept first number into this number text field. Okay, then again I'm selecting the second number edit text field. Okay, and I'm changing the ID as num2. all right, now we need one button. Okay, so by pressing on that button our application should perform the addition operation. I have taken this button. Okay, I'm changing the ID of this button as add. So this is going to perform the addition. You can change the text on this button by customizing over here. Okay, customizing this property. Okay, so I'm changing the text as add. Our text is add. Now we need one label in which we can show the result. Okay, so in Android Studio a label is nothing but a text view. So I'm just simply dragging that text view on our activity. Okay, so you can see the text view over here. I'm going to change the ID of this text view as result because we are going to display the addition result in this particular text view. This is our complete UI for performing the addition. These are the components that we need. Okay, so just let's run it. Okay, so I'm using Pixel Excel as my AVD. So I'm going to type one number in this edit text field, particular edit text field. So over here you can see we get only digits because we have created the number edit text field only. So I'm going to accept the second number. Now if I click on add, nothing will happen because we haven't wrote any code for performing the addition of these two numbers. All right, so we have just created the UI by using the design mode. Okay, so I'll just close this emulator for now. So this is the complete design mode. Okay, now we are going to jump back into the text mode, which is my favorite one because you can see that whatever the UI that you have been created, it has been reflected back in this text mode. Okay, so whatever the components that you have taken on this particular activity, the text mode has generated the complete XML code for that particular components. So you can see over here that we have changed the layout from constraint layout to the relative layout. Okay, so why we are going to use the relative layout we'll get to know in this particular section. Okay, so over here you can see that the complete text mode is in XML format. Over here we can see that the relative layout width has been given as match parent and relative layout's height has been given as match parent. Okay, so if you jump back to into design mode, you can see that this white screen is complete relative layout. Okay, so it has occupied the complete screen space, as you can see over here. So this is nothing but the match parent property of this particular layout. Now let's jump back to the text mode, and so over here we are going to create the user interface by writing a code to it. Okay, at first we are going to take the edit text field. Okay, so simply by typing edit, and you can see that Android Studio provides you the suggestions below. So it suggests you the edit text component over here. So just by pressing the enter, you can see that you have to mention two main properties. Okay, so you have to mention the value of the two main properties, that is nothing but the width and height of that particular component. Okay, so how much width we want. So you can see that Android Studio gives you the suggestions over here. Okay, we are going to use the match parent for our width, and we are going to use height as wrap content. Okay, so as I have mentioned that match parent does what? It occupies the complete space of your screen. So in terms of width, it is going to occupy the complete space. Okay, so what is wrap content basically? Okay, so for that I will just go into the design mode, and I'll show you one example about what is wrap content basically. Okay, so I'm going to take one sample text view over here. Okay, now you can see that it has text occupied as text view. Okay, so if I just change the text from text view to Octopus ITES, okay, and you can see over here that layouts width is wrap content and layouts height is wrap content. So that means the properties which have been set to this particular text view are both wrap content. Okay, so if I just type this much text, it is going to occupy only that much space which is needed by that particular text inside of it. Okay, so this is the wrap content property. So I'm going to mention the ID for this edit text field. I'll just type ID, and you can see that Android Studio has given me the suggestion. Okay, so I'll just simply press enter. Okay, and again I'll press enter for because I want this at plus ID. Okay, then I'll give the name to this ID as num1. Then I'll just simply give some margin from the top. Okay, and I'll give the size as 50 dp. Now what is dp? Dp is nothing but the dots per inches, and 50 is the value for it. Okay, so what I have done over here is that I have set some margin for this particular edit text field, and if you jump back into design mode, you can see that it has been pulled down from the top. Okay, and you can see that it has left 50 dp space from the parent. Okay, so for this we have used the margin top. Okay, now this is our first component. Okay, now we'll take another edit text field. Okay, and again I'm going to put this put the width as match parent and height as wrap content. Okay, now again for this particular edit text field we are going to set the different ID because we are going to accept the second number in this particular edit text field. Okay, then I'll give the ID as num2. Okay, now how relative layout works, we are going to study that. Okay, so if you can see it over here, we have taken two edit text fields. Now if you jump back into design mode, you can see that our second edit text field has shown up at the top of the first edit text field. Okay, so we want to pull this down. We want to set this edit text field below to our first edit text field. Okay, so what I'm going to use is I'm going to use below layout below property. Okay, you can see it over here, Android layout underscore below, and I'm going to specify the ID of first edit text field. So this is the ID of our first edit text field. I'm going to specify that ID into second edit text field, which tells the Android Studio that this particular edit text field is below to the first edit text field. So if we jump back into the design mode, we can see that it has been dropped down below to the first edit text field. Okay, now I need some spaces within these two edit text fields. So again, I'm going to specify the margin top, okay, and I'm going to specify the 50 dp. All right. So over here you can see the relative layout gives us the knowledge about how to set the components relative to each other. Okay, so if you see the example over here, we have taken the two edit text fields, okay, and I have mentioned the second edit text field below to the first edit text field. So this is the actual working of the relative layout. Okay, so over here you can see that it has been relative to the first text field, so you can see the little arrow in between. Okay, so that means this second edit text field's parent is this first edit text field. Okay, now again jump back to the text mode. So if I type button, then Android Studio has given me the suggestion of button component. So if I'll just press enter, okay, and I'm going to put the width and height of this. Now we need button content. Okay, now I'm going to specify the ID of this particular button as addition. Okay, I'm going to put this as addition. Then I'm going to again set this button below to our second edit text field. Okay, so I'm going to give layout below. I'm going to give the ID as num2. Okay, so that means this button will be below to our second edit text field. Okay, now again I'm going to set some space within these two components. So I'm just going to use margin top as 50 dp. Okay, so if you jump back to design mode, you can see that our button has been created, but it's not showing any text on it because we haven't set the property in our text mode. Okay, so we are going to put some text on this button, and we are going to keep this button in center. Okay, so we are going to write two properties for this. So at first we are going to put the text onto the button. Okay, so if you just type text, the Android Studio will give you the suggestion of Android text. Okay, so in these double quotes you can simply write the text you wanted on your button. Okay, so I'll put this as add. Okay, now we are going to use the second property for keeping our button in center. Okay, so we are going to use center horizontal property. Okay, so you can see over here Android layout underscore center horizontal. Okay, so I'll just press enter and I'll keep it as true. Okay, so if we add these two properties, if you jump back to the design mode, you can see over here that the text has been added onto this button, and the text and the button is in the center. Okay, now we need the text view. Yes, because we are going to show the result in this particular text view. Okay, so I'll just keep it as wrap content. I'll keep the width and height as wrap content. Okay, then I'm going to set ID for this particular text view field. I'll keep it as result. Okay, because we are going to display the result in it. Then we want this text view below to our button. So for this particular text view, the button will be the parent. Okay, so I'll just simply type below, and we are going to give layout below as addition. Okay, the ID of this particular button. Okay, now we need to set some space, so I'll just give margin top as 50 dp again. Okay, and we want this text view in center. Okay, so I'll just keep the center horizontal property as true. Okay, now you can see in the design mode our text view has been created. You can see it on the blueprint. So we have created the user interface for our application. Now we are going to study the backend for this particular application. Okay, so let's start. So let's go into the main activity file. Okay, this is the main activity.java. So inside this main activity, Raju has already given you the insights about the package names, then the app compat activities, and then bundle, right? So in main activity we are going to write the logic for our addition operation. Okay, So we have taken 4 components. We have taken 2 edit text fields, and we have taken 1 button, and we have taken 1 text view. Okay, so we are going to create the objects for the same. All right, so if I just type edit text over here, so by default Android Studio will import the package for using the edit text, right? So we are going to create 2 objects because we have taken 2 edit text fields. Okay, so I'll just use number 1 and number 2. Okay, now we're gonna need the object of button class. Okay, so I'll just press enter so that it will import the package. Okay, then I'll just name it as get added value. Okay, now I'm going to create the object for our text view. Okay, I'll just highlight the text view from this particular drop down list and I'll just press enter. Okay, now I'm going to name the object as res. So I'll just type number 1. I'm going to initialize first object of edit text. Okay, I'm going to typecast this. Okay, now I'm going to use one method named as find view by id. Okay, then I'm going to write some code inside it. Okay, so capital R dot id dot whatever the id which we have mentioned for our first edit text field. Okay, so our first edit text field id was num1. Okay, so it will give you the suggestions over here. So what this line of code does over here, whatever the input that we are going to specify in that first edit text field, it's going to be accepted or it's going to be pointed by this number 1 object. Okay, so similarly we are going to initialize the second number. Okay, again edit text, again find view by id. Okay, then r dot id dot, now here it will be num2. Okay, similarly we are going to initialize the button object and the text view object. Okay, so our button object is get added value. Okay, equals to, we are going to typecast into button because we are going to refer the button on our UI file, right? So find view by id r dot id dot addition. Yeah, because we have created the button which has id as addition. Okay, so similarly I'm going to initialize the text view as well. So res equals to text view, then find view by id r dot id dot result. Okay, so we have initialized all these objects which we have taken over here. Okay, so what we have to do over here now is that we have to get the addition, we have to get the result in our text view. So what we have to do over here is that we have to create a listener for our button, so that whenever we are going to click on that button, our result should be displayed in that particular text view. Okay, so we are going to write the code for that. All right, so if you just type get added value, which is our buttons object, okay, dot, you can see that this is the first method, set on click listener. We have to use this. Okay, so inside these two brackets what we have to write is new view. So if you type view, the Android Studio will give you the suggestion about its on click listener method. Okay, so just press enter. So what we are doing over here is that we are overriding the on click method of the view class, of the parent class. So whatever the code that we are going to write inside this on click method is going to execute once we are going to press the button on our user interface. Okay, so whenever we are going to press the add button, it has to execute the lines of code which is inside this on click method. Okay, so what am I gonna do over here is that I'm going to take one integer variable. Okay, let's name it as n1 equals to integer dot %, inside this our number 1. Okay, dot get text dot toString. Okay, so whenever user types any number in our edit text field, that number is in the default format of string. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to take that number and convert that into integer so that we can add that number with our second number. Okay, so whatever the input that user is going to give is in the form of string on that particular edit text field. All right, so what I have done over here is that I have taken that number into integer format and I've stored that number into n1 variable. Similarly, I'll do this for the second number, okay, because we also want that second number to be added into the first number. All right, so I'll type number2 object dot get text dot toString. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to add these two numbers which are now in integer format. So we have to take the third variable as an integer. Okay, so I'm just going to give the name as a result, and I'm going to just simply add these numbers, that is n1 plus n2. Okay, so whatever the result of your addition is going to be stored in this result variable. All right, so now what we have to do is we have taken one text view on our user interface for displaying the result. All right, so now what we have to do is we have to display the result on that particular text view. Okay, so our text view's object name is res dot we are going to use method set text. Okay, so I'm just going to press enter, and inside this I'm going to show the result. Okay, so in double quotes I'm writing addition is, and I'm concatenating the result. Okay, so whatever the value which is being stored in this result variable is going to be displayed in that inside this particular text view. All right, so let's run it. Now you can see that this is our emulator. Okay, so on which our application has been launched. So if I click on this edit text, okay, I'm gonna get this QWERTY keypad. All right, so this is an alphanumeric keypad and we don't want any characters on it. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to change one line of code inside our activity underscore main.xml file. Okay, so previously what we had done in the design mode is that we had taken the number as an edit text field. All right, because its type is number. Okay, so what's happening over here is that we have taken the edit text field but we haven't specified the input type. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to just write input type in these two edit text fields. Okay, and I'm just going to specify input type as number. Okay, so I'm going to copy this line for our second edit text field. Okay, now I'm going to stop this. All right, so let's run it. So over here you can see that our application has been launched. All right, and you can see the two edit text fields and you can see one button. Okay, so whenever you are going to click on this, then you can see that our alphanumeric keypad has been gone and we can see only the numbers. Okay, because we have specified our input type in our application. All right, so I'm just going to give two numbers over here. Okay, and I'm going to press done. All right, so whenever I'm going to click on add, we can see the result in our text view. Okay, so it's displaying the result. Addition is 73 of these two numbers. Okay, so this is our addition application. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. Similar to addition application, you can try to add more buttons for subtraction, for multiplication, etc., and you can apply the logic for the same. All right, so do give your suggestions or ask any questions or queries in the comment section below. Subscribe to our channel, and as always, thanks for watching this video.